Hi there. My name is Jessica Crow, and I am the founder of Apogee. This is our Change Leader Speaker Series, and I'm so excited to have here with me Maureen Breeze. Hi, Maureen.
Hello.
So, Maureen, I met her last year. I was looking for some coaching support, some help with getting more training in this area. And Maureen teaches a course through the University of Denver, their professional development program. So I signed up, and it was such a great experience. I learned so much from her. It informed a lot of what I do through Apogee. And so I thought, there's somebody that I need on the show. It's Maureen. So here she is. Maureen, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you work and what you do? And then I've got a few questions to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on the show. So, as Jessica mentioned, I work as an executive coach and I also do training and facilitation in the corporate arena. I have an organization, Cultivage, that I do that coaching work under. And then I also have a different organization, Retreat, Reinvent, Recharge, where we work with supporting women as they move along their leadership trajectory. And we have a special program for women considering career transition. So a lot of coaching in a few different arenas.
Yeah. And well, how did you get into coaching too? Tell us a little bit about your backstory there.
So I started working in education consulting about 15 years ago, and it was a company that was set up to support student success. And we knew these coaching skills were very powerful. And we thought, what if we brought this concept of coaching to the university setting where faculty and staff could be trained in coaching skills as a way to support students having a vision, being able to work through obstacles, to set concrete goals, to develop some measures of accountability for themselves, all the things that the coaching framework supports well, we thought would live and breathe well in the university and community college system. So this organization, Lifebound, that I was a part of, we did that for about 12 years. And about 5 years ago, I decided it was time. I wanted to work more in the executive coaching arena and work across industries. I have a passion for business and working with business leaders. So at that point, I left and formed Cultivage and started working with this coaching concept in business at that point.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, so much of what I teach about at Apogee is with change management and change leadership. It's helpful to know, obviously, about change management, but being a change leader does require coaching skills. And so I really was excited that, to take your course through Denver University to learn a little bit of what you have been teaching students and teaching executives over the past 15 years. Now, tell me a little bit, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to get coached, who's interested in coaching? Maybe they're at the executive level, maybe they're more of a mid-level manager. What are some of the benefits that you see of getting one-on-one coaching with someone like yourself?
Well, I feel that coaching is something that is underutilized and one of the best tools people can harness. Whether they do it for 6 months in their career or have a coach on retainer and check in with them once a month. But the power of coaching is that it holds a space for somebody to do that deep level thinking, to reflect back, to poke holes in ideas, to reveal blind spots. A coach can become that trusted partner
Mm-hmm.
that can work through thought exercises that can help with, if you're stuck on certain goals, if you're needing some strategic planning. And coaching is different than advising or mentoring, where you might have a mentor at work that helps you through the company politics, let's say, or that might help you understand an industry. A coach is more of a holistic supporter that can help you kind of from that high level figure out, where do you sit right now, where do you want to go, and what has to happen. So it's helpful if the coach knows some things about industry, but coaches tend to have more expertise on behavior change, on strategic thinking about a vision. So they might not need to know everything about your industry. It's more that they get to know you and they can really facilitate that deep thinking process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember going through your course, you also talked about how coaching is different than therapy. It's more of a forward moving modality. You're not necessarily going back in time and studying it, trying to figure out, like how to fix what happened then. It's more like, okay, that happened. How do we move forward from here? So I just remember that being a kind of a key distinction as well. Now, as a manager or a leader of a team, how would you think about, is it worth developing coaching skills as a leader of people, or is it better to, like, how would you think about developing coaching skills as a leader or a manager?
So I think it's one of the skills that will set leaders apart, honestly. If you look at the need of our leaders today, leaders need to be visionary. They need to have strategy, but they also have to be good with people. And often, Jessica, I find I'm called in at the executive level to help leaders who might be incredible visionaries, but learning how to highly motivate a team to get them to come on board or to be able to be resilient during ups and downs, that's a very different skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And you can lead with a tone of compliance, but if you want to lead and have people kind of put forth any discretionary energy they have or give their extra effort, knowing how to tap into that with people so that you get that behavior change or that behavior push is huge. And coaching is the one tool that I think helps leaders do that.
Yeah, that's such a powerful statement. And thinking about in the world of change management and how that is focused on behavior change for change management professionals or leaders of teams, really cultivating that as a skill will make them so much more effective in doing what you just described. So there's value in getting coached one-on-one. It can help you up level as a professional. And then having that as a skill set will make you more effective leading and influencing your team. So I'm really glad you said that. What are some of the misconceptions about coaching that are worth, surfacing and kind of explaining or demystifying?
Absolutely. So I think the biggest misconception is that people think the coach delivers the playlist.
Right.
They've got the playbook. It's different. Coach's role is to sit back and support from the sidelines. They do that with skills to develop deeper introspection, to develop a sense of resourcefulness, to support an employee or a leader in holding themselves accountable to a game plan. But it is a partnership in terms of co-creating how you're going to move through a challenge. So the important thing being coached is to know you're going to have to do the work.
Right.
It's not about saying, okay, I'm going to come to this meeting, tell me what I have to do. Now, that being said, I will share that information at times with clients and say, from my other clients, from my personal experience in leadership, I see XYZ is helpful. But how does that relate to you? What's
Mm-hmm.
important for you? So I help them mine the challenge and then create a solution that really comes from their sense of expertise, their sense of industry knowledge, with me supporting them from the behavioral perspective of the knowledge I have learned and gleaned in coaching that helps people, shift behaviors, drive motivation, take ownership, those sorts of things.
What are some of the ways that a leader or a change management professional who also is a leader, but thinking about, just titles and roles, what are some ways that you can do what you just described at scale? So part of the benefit of coaching is that one-on-one, that feedback, that relationship that you're creating or you're building and then co-creating the solutions. How do you do this with lots of people, whether it's a team or an entire organization? How would you approach that conversation or support the leader and thinking that through? What sort of recommendations would you have?
Yeah. Coaching is a mindset and it's a
Mm-hmm.
way of approaching work together. So if leaders can start to assume that and build that into the culture, that's one thing. So one suggestion I often have when I'm doing consulting work with a client is do some basic coaching training for the different departments, for the different leaders, so you have common language, right?
Yes.
That's a first step. But these coaching skills work very well in a team environment. So I may
Mm-hmm.
go into my team and say, let's identify what's working well, what's not working well. Let's figure out two behaviors that we're going to work on as a team. And then coach
Mm-hmm.
them, what would it look like if we shifted these behaviors? What's going to get in the way? What will be our reminders? What will be the consequences if we fall short?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to drive us, and coach them through a plan so that we all get to a mutual commitment of one behavior. We're going to work collectively as a team to boost our performance. Then the next month we might start to address another after this first one becomes a habit and part of the norm of the working team. So you can use this coaching approach where you're calling people forth, they're offering their ideas, they've got buy-in because they're helping to create the plan, and then it becomes a systemic way of working together.
Yeah, and it's much more sustainable. It feels like a lasting, more positive approach. How would you characterize that in contrast to managing people and just like taking a management approach?
Great question. There are times that managers have to make the calls, right? That they have to set the very clear expectations. They might even have to set the framework for what's being done, how it's being done, when it's being done, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, I talk to managers a lot about how can they set clear goalposts and then maybe do some coaching on the how the players are going to get to the goal, right?
Right.
Because if they start to own their process and their way of working, they're going to feel less like they're micromanaged and they're going to have more buy-in on how they are moving towards the goal. But I've seen so many leaders fearful of micromanaging that they fail to even set the goalposts. And then that
Right.
can be really confusing. So there are areas where the manager has to, lay down, these aren't suggestions, these are more commands, right? But then if they can use a coaching style to say, okay, if this is, the finish line for all of us, how do you see us getting there? And that's where the value of coaching can come in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like the transitions from becoming a manager to a director to an executive, those transitions will all look different because of the different, when you're promoted into a director role, for example, and the titles could be different in organizations, but you're usually getting promoted for the work that you've done and its performance, and it's based on the results that you've been able to produce. But that won't necessarily serve you as a manager of people and teams and much broader scale. And then as you move into an executive role, it's less about managing people and teams and projects. It's more about providing the vision. So where would you say the most the biggest opportunity for coaching sits? Is it at that transition from manager to the next level, or is it moving into the executive suite, or is it all just different experiences for different levels?
I think there's great value along the spectrum, but the topics and the issues that come in coaching change. So one of the most demanding roles I see are middle managers.
Mm-hmm.
They've risen to this role because of high execution capacity, right? Then all of a sudden they're having to manage a team and they're still having to deliver,
Yeah.
and they're having to manage up. I think it's one of the most stressful places on that career spectrum.
Agree.
And it's the first time maybe they're having to deal with direct reports. They're having to deal with maybe some behavioral challenges,
Mm-hmm.
maybe some generational challenges in the workforce. So they have a lot coming at them. So coaching support at that point, coaching support with some leadership development, so some teaching and some coaching support, really important.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get to that executive level, coaching can be very valuable in helping executives think differently about their work. Some executives have risen the chain because they are great execution people. They're great people managers, but they might not have visionary skills in the same
Mm-hmm.
capacity. So that coaching to help boost innovation and thinking differently and spotting opportunities, I think that's the value at that executive level.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What are some, you mentioned professional development teaching. What are some leadership skills that are in your mind worth focusing on, worth cultivating as a leader and manager?
So, it might sound overused or redundant, but communication, communication, communication.
Mm-hmm.
So, having hard conversations, delivering feedback, making clean agreements, managing stakeholder expectations, conflict management to a certain degree, but I find until we get to the higher levels of management, the conflict management really lives at the place of one-on-one conversations,
Right.
how to have effective one-on-one meetings, promoting ownership and accountability. I
Yeah.
would say those are the top skills that I get asked for training around the most, and that I find there's the most heat, about.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think those skills would be useful for anybody who's in a leadership role or wants to be in a leadership role, or even just as an individual contributor, knowing how to navigate those experiences in a way that maintains, that stays on the side of positive versus counterproductive, productive versus counterproductive. What do you think is the next big thing as it comes to coaching and professional development and supporting leaders and organizations today, where we've got a distributed workforce and 5 generations of workers in the workplace? Do you see any sort of kind of major pivots in terms of how you're coaching, or is it things will stay the same but there's new issues that are worth focusing on?
Yeah. I get a lot of requests for how do we manage remote workforce. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, I don't think we know yet.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think we know. I don't think there's a silver bullet. I think we're a couple years into this experiment, and we're learning, we're gathering data, we're seeing what works and what doesn't work. But I think it's too soon to tell.
Mm-hmm.
From a theoretical standpoint of what are best practices. I do see some opportunities in cohort coaching, and it's something that I'm experimenting with, where
Mm-hmm.
I'll go into a larger organization and maybe have 4 or 5 leaders from different departments, roughly the same level, come in and do some group coaching over a year's time. And I'm finding that to be super valuable. Leaders start to get siloed at that higher
Right.
level, and to have this time to come together and hear, oh, this is what operations is dealing with, oh, this is what sales and marketing is dealing with. And so they start to understand and develop their leadership skills in tandem with one another. It creates a very positive synergy, and it helps to build some cultural approaches to growth and change. So that's been the one thing I've been playing with, that I'm seeing, wow, there's some opportunity here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think there would be an added benefit of, and this, maybe you have a line of sight into this. It was something that I experienced when I worked in the corporate space at that level. There's a lot of competition and you think about resources differently, and you think everybody has the same end in mind, but it's just, there's a different vibe at that level. The relationship building that could result and the trust that could come out of that would be very powerful and potent for breaking down those silos. With some of the clients that I work with, I found that often the biggest gap in, you mentioned communication earlier, that's a big gap in what's happening in the organization, and people don't trust each other as much when they don't feel like they have the information, that they somebody has their back, or that they're all in it together. So I really love that idea of group coaching people at the same level, and not only the benefits of what you described, but that trust and relationship too, so they have people that they can lean on when they've got questions. Wonderful. Well, thank you for all of this information. Where can people find you on LinkedIn? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yes, so I'm on LinkedIn, Maureen Breeze. You can reach me at my company email address, which is maureenbreeze@cultivage.com. And, those are probably the 2 best ways to be in touch, but would love to hear from you.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, highly recommend, everyone. So if you're thinking about getting coaching, if you're interested in learning more about developing your own coaching skills, are you still teaching the course through Denver University?
Yeah, I just as you were saying that, I wanted to thank you first, Jessica, for having me on the show. It's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
great to speak with you, and it was so fun to have you in the class. But University of Denver is rolling out their next coaching skills program. So it's slated to start in either late September, early October. They're still finalizing the date, but you can go to University of Denver's Center for Professional Education, and you can sign up there or learn more there and ask some questions. We'd be happy to let you know more about the program.
Yeah. And what's really cool, if you watch this video and it's past September, the program, you can take it in segments So you don't necessarily have to go from start to finish. You can do each course, right, each module, and still benefit that way. If you want the full certificate, I think you have to do all of the different modules. But it's definitely convenient for adults who are working. So I really appreciated it. But thank you so much. I learned so much again from this conversation. I look forward to keeping in touch with you. And just thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and insights with Apogy's community.
Thank you for having me, and best of luck. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye.